Hello, everyone. My guest today is Andrei Boskov. He's a full-stack CEO at Metric.ai, a financial management software that helps consulting companies and agencies run their businesses in a data-centric way. All right, Andrei, you ready to take us to the top?
Let's do it.
So first off, is this a pure play SaaS kind of business model or something else?
No, that's correct. That's a pure enterprise SaaS.
Okay, and give us a sense of what you guys do.
So we're building a financial management solution for consulting companies. My experience previously, I was running the agency myself. I grew it from 0 to 50 employees. I even later sold it. But throughout doing that, it was pretty challenging experience. It's a very low margin business. I've actually nearly bankrupted it myself. Like I was one of those scary moments where you cannot pay the salary for your 30 employees back in time. And the reason for that was we're actually not properly managing and measuring that business. And the reason for that, we're not able to find a proper tool. Long story short, we successfully recovered. We grew the business. We sold it. It was all great. But it
hold
still
on. Step back there, Andrei, for a second.
Sure.
So the agency, you grew to 35 employees. What was in its best year? How much revenue did it do?
So it was probably around $2 million. So that was the offshore agency. So that was pretty good numbers for that.
Okay. And then what'd you sell it for?
We cannot disclose that. That's under NDA.
What year did you sell it?
It was in 2015.
Oh, come on. That was like 4 years ago. Give me a general range. Give me a general range.
So the prop services business are fairly easily evaluated as the multiplier on top of the revenues. The range usually is between 2 to 3x of multiplier, unless you have something specific. So usually you should be looking at the range between 1.5 to 3x's, depends on other variables.
Okay, so you sold for somewhere between 1.5 and 6 million.
Yep.
Okay, very cool. Now, what did you do with that money? Did you use it all to put into the SaaS company?
Pretty much close to that. Like not all of them, trying to be fairly conservative to make sure I have enough runway, but close to that.
Okay, so the current company today, when did you write the first line of code?
So I think it was May 2017.
And how much total money, time, effort, energy did you put into the platform before you had your first dollar of revenue?
It's a good question. Probably around 6 months work that we spent, and not that much money because it was primarily by that time just myself and one more engineer.
Okay, so basically 2 engineers salary for 6 months, right? So call it something like 60 grand, 70 grand, something like that.
Probably around that.
And did you bootstrap the company or have you raised capital to date?
So we initially bootstrapped, but then we've raised additional angel round from essentially friends and family who have worked before. And that's how we continue to operate right now. So we don't have any VC funding yet.
That's great. So how much capital to date in the company?
So it's $400K of the investment that I've had total.
Okay. And do you think you'll go down kind of the VC path from here, or you'll focus on being profitable, buying out early investors and building a more sustainable company?
It's one of the questions that I'm still debating. We're pretty much break even by this point. And it's really, we're in a long-term business ourselves. Like we have very long sales cycles. So sometimes it just makes sense to grow organically. Essentially, it's not decided yet. I need to grow a bit further to just understand where I want to go with that business.
Well, what have you scaled to? How many customers are you working with now today?
We have more than 10, but also we don't discuss the exact number.
Okay, that's fine. But my point is more than 10, it means it's a very high touch kind of enterprise sales model.
Correct.
Okay. And so when someone pays you, generally speaking, what's kind of the average annual contract and why would they pay more? Like what do you price against?
So ACV would be between 25 and 100K.
Okay.
And its pricing is pretty similar price, just like standard pricing based on the seats per month. Seats per month with a certain price. Usually we go with the annual subscriptions.
Okay, but anything other than seats? Do you have a usage-based upsell at all?
We don't have usage-based right now. We're trying to be fairly simple with the model just because we're focused on actually only building out the product and trying to experiment with the pricing strategies for like 5, 10 customers. It doesn't really make sense at this stage for us.
What's your team size today? How many people?
We just 5.
Okay, 5 of you guys. And I can take a minimum, right? So 10 customers at a $25,000 ACV, that puts you north of 20 grand a month right now in revenue. Is that accurate?
Somewhere could be in the ballpark.
Okay. Well, again, fix those numbers if they're wrong. They're your numbers, right? 10 customers, you said you have more than 10 and you said higher than $25,000 ACVs. That would mean you were definitely north of 20 grand a month in revenue. Is that not accurate?
It's pretty accurate.
Okay. And then if you go back a year from today, where were you? Do you remember?
A year back?
Yeah, so if you go back to July of 2018, what were you doing that month? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was probably around 5 grand or so.
And has most of the expansion revenue come from selling more to the same customers or adding new customers altogether?
That's obviously adding new customers and targeting the larger customers that we can find.
Yeah, where are you finding customers today? What channels?
That's outbound sales model pretty much. So it's just me right now doing the sales and just doing outbound outreach.
Who are you targeting? What's the job title?
It's CFO, CEO, COO, essentially like C-level executives, and we're targeting mid to large size companies between 50 and 500 employees.
Okay, and any specific geographical range or sector focus?
So the professional services company, essentially digital agencies or digital consultancies. So that's the niche that we're focusing in.
Okay, so CFOs, COOs at digital agencies with between 50 and 500 employees.
Correct.
Okay, and so your sales team today, you mentioned there's 5 of you guys. How many are doing outbound sales?
Just myself.
Okay, so you're really owning all of this. I mean, it sounded like you were a developer. Really, why haven't you hired a salesperson?
So one of the greatest advice is like if you can like learn how to do sales and you can know how to do development, you're essentially gold because you can do both of the things. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. It's like I'm fully believer that you have to know how to do sales before you scale up your company. So this is essentially what I'm trying to do. I'm actually trying to grow like up to like $1 million ARR by just doing sales myself, just to fully understand the entire process. And once you're ready, obviously go on and scale the sales team.
Yeah, that's in line with Matt Bellows from Yesware, who says, I did all the sales up to $1 million in ARR before I hired my first salesperson.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we're following.
That's great. Churn's critical in a SaaS company. What's your churn today?
We don't have any churn yet on this product.
So nobody has either canceled completely or even paid you less month over month?
That's correct. We mostly have the annual subscriptions. We had our first annual renewal 3 months ago. So yeah, pretty much it's actually negative churn because some of the customers are paying more because they're purchasing more seats.
We're talking like 5% year over year expansion because of seats or more?
Usually even more because a typical consulting company would grow like between 10 to 25%. So I believe it's probably around 15%.
15%. That would put net revenue retention around 115.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And then what are you willing to spend fully weighted CAC to get a new $25,000 a year customer?
So, I mean, we don't measure this right now because it's just primarily just me doing outreach. But realistically, we should be able to spend between like $5,000 to $10,000 CAC per customer, because even probably much more than that, because usually the LTV value on those deals are very large. Like essentially replacing the software is being used by an entire team in the consultancy. And that means if you did all things right, they're going to stick with you for 5 or maybe even 10 years. It's very hard to replace this particular type of software. So we're very much invested in our customers. So CAC might be even much larger than that value.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So talking about like moving forward in terms of funding, right? You could go 2 ways, right? You could raise some capital to buy out early investors, maybe raise debt to buy out early investors. So you own 100% of the company, or you and your founders, or you could go down the VC route and say, you know, we're going to go raise our seed, et cetera. Which way do you think you're going to end up going?
I think it's more likely to raise later on. I'm just probably not sure of the exact timeline. We are in the business where there are a lot of companies that raised quite a lot of money, like pretty large rounds.
Who do you compete with?
So the names would be Clarizen or like the Oracle's OpenAir products or Mavenlink or any of the other large enterprise players. So far, we're able to kind of compete with them by just being more agile since we're a much smaller team. But once you get to a certain scale, you would have to invest heavily into the marketing and sales. And once like the numbers that they drive due to their rounds, like on the marketing side, you just have to like get to that same level and then most likely have to raise.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's wrap up here, Andre, with the famous 5. Number 1, what's your favorite business book?
So it would be Flow. It's probably not even the business book. I think it's Flow, the optimal psychology of optimal experience. It's actually so running the business is managing employees, and essentially the successful employee is happy employee. And this book is just about how like why people are happy and what do you need to do about that.
Number 2, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
I don't think I have like following particular CEO, but I have like Satya Nadella from Microsoft. I'm a big fan of how the Microsoft turned around in the last 10 years. It just shows that under the right leadership, you can do even things like that, like to turn a great company.
Number 3, what's your favorite online tool for building your company?
So I'm a developer, still coding, so probably let's say GitHub.
And number 3, how many hours of sleep do you get every night?
I think my Oura Ring says 8.5 hours. So
8 or 9, good. And then situation, married, single, kids?
I'm married.
Any kids?
But no kids.
And how old are you?
32.
Last question. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
So don't underestimate the compound effect. So in a sense that some things take time to build. And maybe their progress in the beginning is very small. but there is a compound effect and getting better and better. So probably focus on a certain industry and just become a professional, very good professional in that particular industry.
Metric.ai, over 10 customers paying north of $2,000 a month. So $20,000 a month in revenue, up from $5,000 a month just a year ago. Spent 60 grand to build the MVP, started back in 2017. $400,000 raised to date across their team of 5 as they look to help financial services companies run their businesses more effectively. Andre, thank you for taking us to the top.
Thank you.